The mansion was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. It was late afternoon when Alexander Pierce, a 36-year-old self-made millionaire, returned home earlier than expected. He had cut his business trip short, longing to surprise his mother, Margaret, who had raised him alone after his father died. Margaret was his world, fragile now in her 70s, yet strong in spirit. Alexander's success, his sprawling estate, his reputation in the corporate world. None of it mattered more to him than the woman who had once worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table for him. But as Alexander walked quietly through the long marble corridor, he froze. From the living room, he heard a thud, followed by his mother's muffled cry. His chest tightened as he crept closer. What he saw made his blood run cold. There stood Vanessa Langford, his glamorous fiancée, dressed in silk and diamonds. She wasn't the sweet, charming woman she pretended to be in public. In that unguarded moment, she revealed her true self. Her face twisted with rage as she shoved Margaret back into her chair. "You useless old woman," Vanessa hissed, her voice venomous. "You think you matter here? When I marry Alexander, this will be my house. You'll be nothing but dead weight." And then Alexander saw it. Vanessa kicked his frail mother's shin, causing Margaret to cry out in pain. Alexander's vision blurred with fury. The woman he thought he loved was hurting the very person who meant everything to him. His fists clenched, his jaw tightened, but he stayed hidden for one more moment, watching as Vanessa raised her hand again, only to be stopped by a commanding voice that thundered through the room. "Enough!" Vanessa spun around, her face pale, as Alexander stepped into the room. His eyes were blazing with a rage she had never seen before. Margaret looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks, whispering his name. Alexander moved swiftly, placing himself between his mother and Vanessa. His voice shook, not with fear, but with a wrath so controlled it was terrifying. "I left my empire in your hands, thinking I'd found love," he said, his voice like steel. "But all I found was a wolf hiding in silk." Vanessa stammered, "Alex, I can explain." But Alexander raised his hand. "No more lies. I saw everything." At that moment, Margaret reached for her son's hand, her voice trembling. Don't lose yourself in anger, Alex." He looked at his mother, then back at Vanessa, and something shifted inside him. His next actions would not just be about protecting Margaret. They would expose the truth about love, power, and the worth of kindness. Vanessa's confident mask crumbled as Alexander's silence pressed down on her. She tried to reach for him, but he stepped back, his arm protectively wrapped around Margaret. "Do you think wealth blinds me?" Alexander's voice was cold, deliberate. "Do you think I'd marry cruelty just because it comes wrapped in beauty?" Tears of panic welled in Vanessa's eyes. "I only lost my temper. She provoked me." Alexander cut her off sharply. "No one provokes kindness, and my mother is the very reason I breathe." He pulled out his phone, pressing a button that made Vanessa's face drain of color. Security cameras. Every corner of the mansion was under surveillance. In seconds, his staff and personal security guards entered, their eyes widening as Alexander ordered, "Show her out. She doesn't belong in this house or in my life." Vanessa screamed, threatened, and begged, but it was over. Within minutes, she was escorted out of the estate, her carefully constructed future collapsing around her. As the door closed, Alexander finally turned to Margaret. He knelt beside her, holding her trembling hands, tears filling his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mother. I should have seen her true face sooner." Margaret, though shaken, cupped his cheek with a frail hand. "No, my son. You saw what mattered in time, and you chose love over illusion." That night, Alexander made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. Instead of hiding the incident, he went public. He released the security footage, not out of spite, but as a warning, to remind people that wealth can attract predators, and that silence in the face of cruelty only feeds it. But Alexander's true act of love came quietly. He dedicated his resources not to finding another fiancée, but to creating something in Margaret's honor, a foundation for the elderly, ensuring no mother or father would be mistreated or discarded because of their age. The story spread across the city. People who once only saw Alexander as a ruthless businessman began to see him as a son who valued kindness above all else. And Margaret, sitting proudly at her son's side, knew she had raised not just a successful man, but a man of integrity. Years later, whenever people spoke of Alexander Pierce, they didn't speak first of his fortune. They spoke of the day he returned home early, saw cruelty with his own eyes, and chose to defend love with courage. And Margaret? She would often smile and say softly, "My son may be a millionaire, but his richest gift is his heart."